and texts and calls on that issue this morning. OK, 8:42. It's time to talk about The Apprentice. So, if you have it recorded and you haven't watched it yet,
here you go.
Spoiler alert. She had been in the losing team 5 times.
There's a clue.
And has been in the boardroom almost as many. After a grilling from Lord Sugar last night, it was Sandeesh who heard the dreaded words, "You're fired."
She was criticised by her team Synergy members and by Lord Sugar for her lack of planning after losing to Team Apollo by a mere £39. We'll talk to Sandeesh in a moment, who's recovered from the ordeal, we're pleased to say. Morning, Sandeesh.
Morning.
First, let's take a look at that moment that all candidates dread.
Sandeesh, he was appointed by me as team leader. We've talked many times about planning. Clearly, on this particular task, there was no planning. Sandeesh, you're up against 2 very strong contenders here, so I'm going to have to let you go. You're fired.
Right, thank you anyway, all of you.
Go back to the house.
Thanks very much.
Too little, too late, I think, is really explains it about her.
She lacks that bit of ruthlessness and killer instinct.
Oh, ruthless. You see, we could see that you like killer instinct because you said thank you when you left the boardroom.
Just tell us what the task was last night. I mean, obviously all of those who watched, and it was a particularly gripping and I have to say quite painful episode last night. Just for those who didn't, what was the task?
Well, we were tasked with selling DVDs of movie experiences to the general public. So there was a lot of filming involved and trying to entice customers to get in front of a blank screen, essentially.
And then you sort of mock up either skiing downhill or a driving experience or something like that, and then try and sell them that DVD.
Yeah.
And you did the skiing one, which it seemed like a pretty novel idea. Didn't seem to sell so well.
There were 3 movie experiences, though. That wasn't the only backdrop. There was also a motor experience and an aquatic experience, sort of an undersea adventure, if you like.
Yeah. Now, there were obviously 2 teams, and the other team, led by Stuart, who calls himself the Brand, doesn't he? And I think anyone watching the show last night, and I know you only saw the final show this week, didn't you? Obviously knew the outcome. Anyone watching would have thought, I think, last night, it was Stuart
was on his way out.
Who was on his way out.
If he'd lost, he would have been out, wouldn't he?
I think probably, he would have been. But unfortunately, we lost by only £39, but we still lost.
Because you spent too much, well, a couple of things. You overspent on buying DVDs, which you didn't then sell, and also spent too much on other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a learning experience, a learning curve for me. Obviously, I've learnt that in future, try and keep costs to a minimum to make the maximum profit.
I think one of the things was, Liz was on your team,
Yeah.
of course, wasn't she? She, at one point, she went and had a quick look at what the other team were doing, which gave her an idea, which actually ended up probably costing you money. Let's have a quick look.
While Laura and Joe deal with unhappy customers, Liz sneaks a look.
Snooping.
I only thought about the competition because the lady... It's just here, actually, guys, if we can just pop over here.
4:45 p.m.
Do you like this car? We can make a movie in a car if she'd like. OK.
Out goes Jamie's ski adventure.
You ready?
In comes their motorbike race background from the archive.
Keep driving. Hey, no, very good.
We got a couple more tapes for you if you wouldn't mind coming down to pick them up, mate.
Liz getting the car has made a real difference and lowering the prices. £4 off our original price. The car's there and then people think, oh yeah, £8, not too much. OK, thank you, enjoy it.
The difference in the two teams was 4 DVDs, so wasn't it, more or less the price?
Yeah, more or less.
And your problem was you weren't ready at 10 o'clock, were you? Where the other team started selling at 10 o'clock at Westfield, you started selling at 11.
Yeah, there were a few problems like that.
Because the guys who had been trained to do the technical stuff, you then spent time having them teach the others. Why did you do that?
I mean, to be honest, it was only about maybe 10 minutes.
I know, you looked so surprised in the boardroom when you were told you'd lost an hour. You were like, Oh,
yeah,
that wasn't on my
I
watch.
didn't really think that was because of teaching Chris.
Yeah.
It was a pretty simple thing to pick up in order to burn the DVDs, but you know, there are a few decisions here and there that amounted to us losing.
Do you think
minor sort of?
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
but there were a few. So.
I think lots of people think it was a little unfair last night, and even Lord Sugar said it's too little, too late. You kind of did well, but it was too late to not do well enough. I think, don't you think right from the beginning you've had this problem on the show that he seemed to think, Lord Sugar seemed to think you just didn't contribute enough to a team, and it was almost as if from the moment he said you're project manager, did you feel like, oh right, I'm on the line here?
Yeah, I mean, I think as project manager, you always feel like your neck is on the line and you're probably most likely to go if your team loses. But to be honest, in my defence, you know, he had an opportunity to fire me 3 times before. And if he really thought I didn't do anything, he could have done a double elimination at any point, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, he did listen to me when I sort of defended myself and said what I did contribute.
Did you learn a lot from the experience, and what are you doing now?
I did learn a lot. You know, I learned, as Lord Sugar said to me, to plan better, and also I learned that, you know, I'm very resilient, and I think that other people can perhaps learn from that too. You know, you get a lot of criticism being in the boardroom 3 times, and you've just got to sort of get back up and keep going. And now I'm running my own recruitment company. So
with a very thick skin.
Yeah.
Well, it's absolutely lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having me.
And if you missed The Apprentice,